Sierra texted me while I was at work. She wanted to open our relationship, just on her side. I read it twice to make sure I wasn't missing a joke somewhere. There was no joke. She'd already picked out the guy. His name was Logan. She knew him through the yoga studio she'd been going to on Tuesday nights, and apparently they'd been talking for weeks. She wanted to explore a connection with him before we got any more serious. I, on the other hand, was apparently perfect exactly as I was and didn't need anyone else. Lucky me. I didn't call her. I didn't storm out of the office. I typed back 4 words. Sounds fair to me? Then I put my phone face down on the desk, finished my report, and started closing doors she didn't know existed yet. My wallet, my lease, my time. It took 5 days for her to understand what she'd actually opened. We'd been together 3 years, living in my apartment for the last one. I was 29, she was 27. And until that Monday afternoon, I would have told you things were good. Not perfect, good. My coworker Mike noticed my face had gone somewhere strange and asked what was wrong. I showed him the message. He read it, handed the phone back, and said, "That's a bold ask." That night, Sierra came home dressed like she was headed to an audition. New dress, hair done, the whole production. "So which is this?" I asked. "The dress or the relationship?" "Both," she said, grinning like she'd gotten away with something. "I have a date with Logan tomorrow. We've been talking for weeks. This is good for us, you know. You're so secure, that's why this doesn't bother you, right?" I've since learned that when someone tells you a decision shouldn't bother you, it's usually because they already know it should. "Sounds fair," I said again, because I'd decided that was going to be my line for a while. She lit up like I'd handed her a trophy, kissed my cheek, left practically skipping. The second she was out the door, I made 2 calls. The first was to my landlord, Mr. Callahan, to confirm again that Sierra had never been on the lease. She hadn't. She was a guest, full stop, and had been for a year. The second call was to myself, mentally, going through every account, subscription, and bill that had quietly become a 2-person expense paid by one. Her car insurance was on my policy. Her phone was on my plan. Netflix, Hulu, HBO, Spotify, all mine, all covering her too. She was also 2 months behind on utilities and 3 months behind on groceries, which I hadn't mentioned before because I hadn't wanted to be that guy. I didn't cancel anything that night. I just wrote it all down. The next morning, she was radiant, talking about Logan over coffee like he was a documentary she couldn't stop recommending. "He really gets it, the whole growth thing." "Good for you," I said. "You're not even a little jealous?" "Why would I be? This was your idea. I'm respecting it." She frowned at that, just slightly, like the answer wasn't the one she'd been fishing for. By Wednesday, she wanted money, $200 for a manicure before her date that night. "I figured since you're exploring your independence, you'd cover your own going out expenses too. That's usually how it works when you're seeing other people. You always paid before. Before we were exclusive. Now you're dating someone else on my dime. That math doesn't work for me." She called me Ms. Kino, cheap, paid for the manicure herself, and left annoyed. I didn't feel bad. I felt like a man reading the terms of a contract he hadn't written, but had somehow still agreed to. Thursday, her Netflix stopped working. She found me in the kitchen, phone in hand, genuinely confused. I changed the password. "Why would you do that?" "I'm just reconsidering who has access to my accounts. Seems like a reasonable thing to reconsider given the circumstances. We share everything." "You used my accounts. That's not the same as sharing." She stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. "You're twisting this." "I'm repeating it back to you. You wanted the relationship open. I'm opening it." She left for Logan's place that night and didn't come back. Friday, I took the day off. Before I touched anything, I called Mr. Callahan again and asked him to walk me through exactly what I could and couldn't do, given that Sierra had never signed anything. I wasn't about to hand her a legitimate complaint just because I was angry. Once he'd confirmed the process and I'd followed it, notice given, a reasonable window for pickup, I packed her things carefully, nothing thrown, nothing broken, everything boxed and labeled, and moved them to the storage unit in the basement, the one every resident is entitled to use. I left a note on top. 30 days. Call ahead.
Then I changed the locks, blocked every way she had of reaching me, and drove up to the lake with my friend Andres for the weekend. Phone off. When I turned it back on Monday morning, I had 70-something missed calls, over 100 texts, and a stack of emails. None of them were from Sierra, I had blocked her, but plenty were from people around her. Her best friend Gabby left about 15 voicemails, each more dramatic than the last. You can't just disappear like this, she's completely overwhelmed, you're deliberately shutting her out when she's already falling apart. My favorite message by far came from Logan himself. Bro, your girl is losing it. She won't stop crying at my place. Can you come get her? She's not my girl, I wrote back. She's your problem now. Good luck with the growth journey. Her mother, Linda, showed up at my building demanding to be let up. Security called me first. I told them not to let her in. I could hear her yelling something about an ungrateful boyfriend all the way from the lobby. Later that day, a message arrived from Linda's phone. It was Sierra. We need to talk. This is insane. You weren't kicked out, I wrote. You left with Logan on Thursday. I assumed you'd moved on. I changed the locks because a lot of new faces have been coming around lately. That's not funny. Neither was finding out by text that you were planning to date other people while I kept paying for everything. I never said that. I forwarded her own message back to her, timestamped. That's out of context, she wrote. The context is right there, I said, and stopped replying. By Tuesday, Logan had already put her out. She'd worn out her welcome in 2 days flat. She landed at Gabby's, but Gabby's boyfriend wasn't thrilled about the arrangement, especially after Sierra apparently tried to prove a point about his loyalty that had nothing to do with loyalty. From there, she ended up crammed into her mother's one-bedroom. I only knew all of this because of a private social media account I kept for exactly this kind of situation, watching quietly, saying nothing. And that's when the posts started. Vague, pointed captions about toxic men, controlling partners, emotional manipulation, and how some men just can't handle a strong, independent woman. No names, but everyone who knew us understood exactly who they were about. Mutual friends started tagging me in comments before I'd said a single public word. The first real warning came from someone I didn't expect. Diana, an ex of mine from years back, who'd stayed close with both of us. She sent me screenshots Sierra had sent her directly, venting. What's wrong with him? Why is he being like this? Diana, who'd known me a long time, wrote back something like, that doesn't sound like him at all. What actually happened? That's when Sierra started editing the story in real time. I just asked for some space to find myself, and he threw me out. Diana's response was short. You asked for space. He gave you all of it. I'm not seeing the injustice. Sierra tried one more angle. You're still hung up on him. Diana laughed so hard she had to send a voice memo. I'm married with twin toddlers, but thanks for trying. Wednesday, Sierra tried to find a lawyer. The problem was funding. I knew this because she accidentally sent Gabby a screenshot of her bank balance, $74, meant as evidence of the financial control she now claimed I'd used against her. It landed in my inbox instead, forwarded by a mutual friend who thought I should see it. The next morning, Linda called from an unknown number, voice sharp. You need to take her back. No, she made a decision, she can live with it. She made a mistake. Then maybe she should have been taught earlier that decisions come with consequences.
Silence. Then a click. That afternoon, building management called. Someone had tried to get into my apartment. The new lock had held. They had it on camera and asked if I wanted to file anything. When I watched the footage, there was Sierra, trying her old key first, then attempting to get past the new lock after realizing her key no longer worked. Security spotted what she was doing, stopped her, and she left before the situation escalated any further. I didn't take the matter any further, but I made sure the incident was formally documented so there'd be a record if anything else happened. That night, Logan texted me. Hey man, I owe you an apology. She told me you two were basically done and that whatever was left between you was just temporary. How does basically done turn into her asking to open our relationship when your first date was already scheduled for the next night? That's not the version she gave me. I sent him the actual timeline. Her message asking to open things sent barely a day before their first date. He didn't argue with it. God, I'm an idiot.
He also told me she'd said the relationship was already over in every way that mattered, that we were still sharing an apartment out of convenience while I hadn't fully accepted that she'd moved on. She'd made the open relationship message sound like a formality, something we'd already discussed and agreed to. None of it matched a single receipt I had. I'd covered rent, insurance, groceries, most of her life for over a year, while she spent her own paycheck on nights out and manicures. He mentioned something else, almost as an afterthought, that she wasn't even staying with him anymore. She'd matched with a guy named Ian and talked him into letting her crash on his couch, describing herself as newly single and temporarily without a place to stay. 4 days, 3 different addresses. I remember thinking it was less a breakup and more a controlled demolition. Friday morning, a process server showed up with paperwork. Sierra was suing me. Wrongful eviction, emotional distress, $10,000 plus back support for the months we'd lived together. I called my friend Matt, a lawyer, mostly to laugh with someone who understood how flimsy it was. Matt went through the lease, the messages, the notice I'd given her, the building records, the timeline. You documented the separation, involved management, gave her a window to retrieve her things, and followed the process they required, he said. Her version of events leaves out basically all of that. This isn't a strong case. And depending on how public she gets with the accusations, you might have grounds of your own. For the weekend, nothing happened. It felt like the calm everyone warns you about. Monday, Sierra and her mother posted something long on Facebook under a caption about women supporting women, painting me as controlling and financially manipulative, a man who supposedly cut me off and threw me out the second she wanted freedom. It picked up hundreds of shares before lunch. I'd already prepared for this. I posted the original message, the one where she asked to open things only on her side, the timestamp from her first date with Logan, the texts asking me for money while she was still living in my apartment, screenshots proving I'd covered every bill for months, her own words admitting the arrangement was temporary. My post outpaced hers within a day. One of her exes eventually reached out. I expected another dramatic story. What he sent me was actually worse because it was so ordinary. Different apartment, different year, different man. Same pattern. She'd gradually stopped contributing, started talking about needing freedom, then rewritten the breakup once he stopped supporting her. He asked if I wanted contact information for another guy she'd dated. I told him no. I already understood the pattern. I wasn't interested in building anything around a woman I was trying to remove from my life. Patterns don't get more true because you collect more of them. That same week, Ian texted, "Hey, is this your ex?" A profile link. I confirmed it was. "She's been on my couch for 3 days," he wrote. "Told me she was newly single and needed somewhere to land. This is a lot." "That tracks," I told him. "Already helping her pack," he said. "Appreciate the heads up." I sat there afterward, thinking about how everything she'd aimed at me, the manipulation, the public performance, the victim narrative, was clearly a pattern she'd run before, on other people, more than once. For the first time, I wasn't her next casualty. I was just the last guy who closed the door in time. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, Logan reached out again, this time not to apologize, but to talk. He asked if we could meet, just to clear the air. Against my better judgment, I agreed, mostly out of curiosity about what was left to clear. We met at a coffee shop that had nothing to do with either of them, which felt important at the time. "There's something you don't know," he said, turning his cup like it might give him something to do with his hands. "I didn't message her because I wanted to date her. Not really. Not at first. Okay? I saw a picture of you on her phone months before any of this started. I made a comment, nothing serious, just, 'Your boyfriend's a good-looking guy,' something like that. She didn't get weird about it. She got interested. I didn't say anything. I let him keep going. She started talking to me more after that, sending me photos of you. Nothing weird, just normal stuff. You at dinner, you at the gym, bringing you up constantly. I thought it was strange, but she made it seem like she just liked knowing someone was interested in both of us. Both of us. She never said it outright, but it was there. She kept saying things like, 'You two would actually get along,' or 'He'd probably be your type too.' I figured she was messing with me at first, then I realized she was serious. For a few seconds, I didn't say anything. Not because I was embarrassed. I was mentally replaying the last month with an entirely different set of subtitles. The questions, her obsession with whether he'd contacted me, the way she'd kept insisting we'd like each other. Suddenly, none of it looked random. Her asking every time I came home whether Logan had tried to contact me. Her strange interest in what I thought of him more than in what she felt about him. The way she tensed whenever our paths came anywhere close to crossing. None of that had been about guilt over cheating. It had been about protecting a plan. She wasn't trying to date you, I said slowly. She was trying to build something with both of us, and she wanted to be the one running it. Logan nodded, looking somewhere between embarrassed and relieved to finally say it out loud. She told me once, almost joking, "You don't get him without me." I didn't know what to do with that. I should have backed off right there. I didn't. Why not? Honestly, curiosity about you, which in hindsight is a pretty messed up reason to keep talking to someone's girlfriend. I appreciated the honesty more than I expected to, though it didn't make the situation less strange. "There's one more thing," he said. "On our actual date, the real one, not the fake one from day one, she kept bringing you up over and over. Finally, she asked me something. If I had to choose between seeing her again or meeting you, which would I pick? And I said you. I didn't even think about it before I answered. She asked if I was joking. I told her I wasn't. Then she asked whether I'd still be interested in seeing her if you weren't part of the picture. I told her honestly that I didn't know. That's when she got quiet, like actually quiet, not performing quiet. I think that's the moment this whole thing fell apart for her." That explained a lot. The strange mood when she'd come home that first night, the tightening whenever Logan's name came up afterward. She hadn't been afraid of getting caught cheating. She'd been afraid of losing the center seat in a triangle she'd built entirely for herself. There was a strange symmetry to it. Sierra opened the relationship because she thought she could control two people's attention. On her first real attempt, she discovered she couldn't reliably hold either one. "So what now?" I said, mostly to see where he'd take it. He hesitated. "Maybe under different circumstances, you and I." "No." I said it plainly, no heat behind it. "You got involved with my girlfriend because you wanted access to me. That's not romantic, Logan. That's a warning label." He didn't argue. To his credit, he just nodded and let it sit there. I thought about the whole thing differently after that. Every strange question she'd asked over those weeks lined up now, like dominoes falling backward. You two would get along. He's curious about you. Has he texted you yet? None of it had been jealousy. It had been management. She hadn't wanted an open relationship in any normal sense. She'd wanted a closed one, with a door only she controlled and two men on either side of it who thought they were choosing freely. I didn't feel humiliated by any of it, which surprised me a little. Mostly I felt like I'd been cast in a play I never auditioned for. And the good news was that the play was over. The lawsuit went nowhere, exactly like Matt predicted. No lease, no rent history, a paper trail of texts confirming her stay was temporary. The whole thing was dismissed before it ever reached a real hearing. Her public posts came down not long after, quietly, once enough people had seen the receipts I'd posted, and the story stopped working in her favor. A mutual friend told me she'd tried, briefly, to spin an updated version of events to a mediator during a housing dispute over her stuff still sitting in my storage unit, and that hadn't gone anywhere either once the timestamps came out. She reached out one final time, weeks later, from a number I didn't recognize. "Can we talk? In person? Just once?" I agreed, mostly for closure, and because I didn't want any part of this trailing behind me indefinitely. We met outside a diner near her mother's building. She looked tired in a way makeup couldn't quite cover. "I never wanted to replace you," she said. "I wanted us to experience something together." "Then why wasn't I allowed to choose anyone?" I asked. She hesitated. "Because that wasn't the point. I wanted it to be someone I trusted, someone I chose." "Exactly," I said. "You didn't want an open relationship, Sierra. You wanted control with better branding. You manipulated two people into a situation neither of us agreed to be in. You lied to Logan about who I was. You lied to me about what you actually wanted. You tried to manufacture jealousy so I'd play a part you'd already written for me. I never wanted to lose you. Then you shouldn't have turned me into a character in a story you were writing behind my back. She didn't have a response to that. I didn't wait for one. It's been a few months now. The last practical issue between us was resolved when she collected the final box from building management. After that, I blocked the last number she'd used to reach me and asked mutual friends not to pass along updates. Where she lives now, who she's dating, and what version of the story she tells these days are no longer my business. Logan and I haven't spoken since that coffee shop either. I didn't hate him, but understanding someone's motives doesn't obligate you to keep them in your life. He crossed a line, admitted it, and accepted the consequence. That was enough closure for me. I'm not dating anyone right now, and honestly, I'm fine with that. I go to the climbing gym a few times a week, I've picked up hobbies I dropped years ago, and I sleep fine at night, which is more than I could say during those 5 days of silence that started all of this. She wanted a relationship that was open only on her side. She got exactly that, an open door, one she walked through without realizing it led out, not in. I just closed it behind her.
Bye bye.